Professor Ioannis Armakolas, thank you very much for granting Euronews Albania this interview.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Always a pleasure to talk to Albanian media.
You are a Senior Research Fellow, Head of Southeast Program of Hellenic Foundation for European and Foreign Policy, Assistant Professor at the Department of Balkan, Slavic and Oriental Studies at the University of Macedonia. And that's why we appreciate your thoughts on what is happening between both countries, Albania and Greece, on the dispute that we had in the last years for the maritime agreement. Have you been following the latest development, the fact that both countries declared that they will go to the International Court of Hague in order to address this issue? What is your stance on this?
Yes, I've been following, of course, Greece's relations with Albania and generally the regional affairs. And of course, I think this is a very positive development, that the two countries have agreed to find a peaceful judicial way to resolve this dispute. And I hope this will be a harbinger maybe the start of a long process that will lead to the settlement of all remaining problems and disputes between the two countries, while Albania, hopefully in the coming years, will be joining European Union.
When you say it's a good agreement, that's what there are different schools of thought, at least what we're debating in Albania. Who is it good for Greece or for Albania?
I think it's good for both countries in the sense that there will be a third party, a judicial official body of the UN that will settle for good the dispute between the two countries. The two countries will sign an agreement on the terms of the dispute that will be submitted to the International Court of Justice. It's called arbitration agreement, and on the basis of that and on the basis of international law, of course, the court will decide on finalizing and settling this dispute between the two countries. It's a judicial way. It's a way based on international justice, and I would say it's a European way. The European way of solving disputes is through international law and the involvement of neutral third parties.
Professor Armakolas, how long it may take to have a final decision from the International Court of Hague?
I'm not sure how long. I think it will depend on how quick the two sides will agree on the arbitration agreement, on the document that they will both submit to the International Court in order for the court to commence the proceedings. I very much doubt that the two sides will manage to agree on this agreement before the Albanian elections. I think it will take probably several months to negotiate this official document that will be submitted. After this official document is submitted, I think it will take maybe a couple of years before the court reaches its decision. But remains to be seen, of course. I'm not entirely sure of the time frame for this.
And also, let me bring you to your attention. During his speech at the Parliament, Greek Prime Minister Mitsotakis said that Greece has extended its sea borders to 12 nautical miles. Is this position that Athens is taking putting Albania in difficulty to reach an agreement document, arbitration agreement, before going to Hague?
No, I don't think so. The Greek government started the process of extending its territorial waters at the western part of the country to 12 nautical miles. It's not a final. The process is not finalized. It will take a bit more time to finalize the official procedure for this. But this is according to international law and the Convention for the Law of Sea, a prerogative, the right of every state to extend its territorial waters to 12 miles. That will not put Albania into any difficult position because Albania accepts, according to international law, the right of every country to extend its territorial waters to 12 nautical miles, the same way that Albania has 12 nautical miles territorial waters. I think it will clear the way, this move, for the two countries to follow the right procedure, the right international procedure, and reach an agreement with the help of the International Court. I don't think Albania or anyone in Albania should take this, should perceive this as a move that is against Albania in any way. It's just Greece is enacting its own rights according to international law, and it's not directed against Albania in any way.
Professor Armakola, how is the reaction of the political spectrum in Athens regarding the speech of the Prime Minister and the position of Greece and the fact that this agreement between Albania and Greece is going now to the International Court of Hague?
I think there is overall a positive atmosphere in Greece about this issue. As it happens in Albania, in Greece also, foreign policy issues very often become a question of competition and rhetorical arguments between government and opposition. This happens every time. And usually, as it happens also in Albania, the way this happens is that there is always some criticism towards the government from a patriotic standpoint. So always the opposition is asking for more. I think it happens in every country. It's the same in Albania because me and the team are following very closely Albanian politics and Albanian media. I think, however, that there is a consensus both in the government and the major opposition and the mainstream parties of the opposition that disputes with Albania have to be resolved. And this is a first move that will allow the two countries to continue resolving all the disputes. And I think by the time that Albania very soon, I hope, will join the European Union, all the disputes with Greece will have been resolved, and we will have a new partnership between the two countries. The fact that we need time to resolve these disputes is also because the trust between the two countries, both between the governments but also between the two societies, is very low. I think it's very unfortunate. Greece and Albania share so many things, culturally, historically, politically. And in the last 30 years after the end of communism, we have had the opportunity to build solid relations of partnership and trust. This did not happen, but I think the process of Albania's joining the European Union, which is fully supported by Greece, is a period and is a process that will help us not only resolve the disputes, but also build trust, build bridges between the two societies. And I cannot imagine the two countries moving forward in the future, in the 21st century further, without being very close friends and allies. I think this is absolutely necessary, and it's to the benefit and to the interest of both countries.
I fully agree with you, and would have been much better to have trust among each other as a society at a political level. But who is prohibiting having this trust among us?
There are, of course, as in every country, both political and non-political civil society actors who have an interest in relations not being at best. So they gain political points, they score political points through animosity or through hostility or through lack of trust between the two countries. At the same time, I think in both countries there have been certain instances in relations which have undermined trust. Another reason is, I think, that the media play a very negative role in both countries. We have extensively studied the media in our institute over the years, especially relations between Greece and Albania and the role of the media. And I have to say there's so much stereotyping in media in both countries, both in Greece and in Albania, about each other. And there are, I think, too much prejudice in the public discourse in Albania about Greece and in Greece about Albania. Mm-hmm. I think both countries can do better in that department, and I think if we are to become truly European partners in a uniting Europe that will include the entire Western Balkans, we need to to work to dismantle stereotypes. You need to work to dismantle prejudice. And I think Greeks have to do this in their own country, to dismantle prejudices and stereotypes about Albanians, negative stereotypes. But I think Albanians also, Albanian media, Albanian politicians, civil society, intellectuals, have to do the same about the stereotypes and the prejudices they have against Greece. It's a long process. It will take time. But I cannot imagine both countries being members of the European Union and having this level of distrust. We need to work in that direction.
Professor Ioannis Armakolas, I want your opinion on what some critics have said recently in Albania, that what happened between Albania and Greece, sending the maritime issue agreement in The Hague, means a failure of the political class, the political elite in Albania, namely. Is it a failure, in your view?
First of all, I have to say, because I'm a great admirer of international organization, international life, and international cooperation. I don't see in what way a judicial process, a process of the UN guided by international law, is a failure. I think it's a great achievement of the 20th century that we have international organizations and international law regulating international affairs. So, in my view, it's good that we have international law and international bodies regulating our relations. Now, whether this could have been done without the involvement of the International Court, it could have been possible. You know, there was the agreement of 2009, which failed to materialize because of the decision of the Constitutional Court of Albania. You know, there has been extensive negotiations between the Greek and the Albanian government during the ministerial tenures of Ditmir Busati and Nikos Kotsias. Unfortunately, despite the fact that they have progressed a lot, they haven't managed to reach an agreement. So therefore, I think the two governments realized that maybe because of the lack of trust, maybe because of all this opposition and this the bad atmosphere that you have in media, but also in the opposition sometimes, it's easier to rely on an international court and therefore offer legitimacy, international legal legitimacy to any agreement. I cannot blame them.
Yeah.
I have to say lack of trust is a serious problem in relation between the two countries. So maybe the court will help us, both sides, accept the agreement without serious trouble, domestic opposition and trouble.
And please allow me to ask you a final question. Has Greece gone before for a similar agreement with another country at the International Court of Hague? I know with Turkey things are much worse, but I mean, as a similar case like Albania and Greece for the maritime border.
Greece wants to take disputes with Turkey to the International Court of Justice. This is the standard Greek policy on the issue. And Turkey is the country resisting so far at least, the idea of taking these disputes over maritime zones, these disputes to the court. Greece has reached an agreement with Italy and Egypt without the recourse, without the use of the judicial path of the Court of Justice, because the countries managed to reach a political agreement, so to say. But I don't see why using an internationally legitimate body and a legally solid body of international justice is a problem for two countries reaching an agreement. And I think the Albanian side should always keep in mind that this would be the first step for settling many other disputes, smaller or bigger, that exist between the two countries. I think this is the start of a process that will bring the two countries closer and will make the two countries strong partners in the context of the European Union. And I don't think we should allow prejudices between the two countries to undermine the effort to build trust. We have to give it a try.
Thank you very much, Ioannis Armakolas, for this interview. And let me conclude with your call for more trust between both countries, society-wise and political elite. I appreciate your interview, talking for Euronews Albania from Athens.
Bye-bye, thanks.